I'm here today to show my photographs of the Lakota. The Lakota are one of many tribes that were moved off their land to prisoner of war camps, now called reservations. So I've been asked to talk a little bit today about my relationship with the Lakota, and that's a very difficult one for me, because if you haven't noticed from my skin color, I'm white, and that is a huge barrier on a native reservation. But on Pine Ridge, I will always be what is called Washichu. And Washichu is a Lakota word that means non-Indian, but another version of this word means the one who takes the best meat for himself. And that's what I want to focus on, the one who takes the best part of the meat. It means greedy. So take a look around this auditorium today. We are at a private school in the American West, sitting in red velvet chairs with money in our pockets. And if we look at our lives, we have indeed taken the best part of the meat. So let's look today at a set of photographs of a people who lost so that we could gain. The following is a timeline of treaties made, treaties broken, and massacres disguised as battles. In 1951, the first Treaty of Fort Laramie was made, clearly marking the boundaries of the Lakota Nation. Later, the Homestead Act, signed by President Lincoln, unleashed a flood of white settlers into native lands. 1863, an uprising of Santee Sioux in Minnesota ends with the hanging of 38 Sioux men. The execution was ordered by President Lincoln only 2 days after he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. 1866, the beginning of the Transcontinental Railroad, a new era. In response, 3 tribes led by the Lakota chief Red Cloud attacked and defeated the U.S. Army many times over. I want to repeat that part. The Lakota defeat the U.S. Army. 1868, the Second Fort Laramie Treaty clearly guarantees the sovereignty of the Great Sioux Nation and the Lakota's ownership of the sacred Black Hills. The treaty seemed to be a complete victory for Red Cloud and the Sioux. In fact, this is the only war in American history in which the government negotiated a peace by conceding everything demanded by the enemy. 1871, the Indian Appropriation Act makes all Indians wards of the federal government. In addition, the military issued orders forbidding Western Indians from leaving reservations. 1875, the Lakota War begins over the violation of the Fort Laramie Treaty. 1887, the Dawes Act. Communal ownership of reservation lands ends. Tribes lost millions of acres. Once again, the fat of the land goes to Washichu. 1890, on December 29th, U.S. troops surrounded a Sioux encampment at Wounded Knee Creek and massacred Chief Bigfoot and 300 prisoners of war. For this so-called battle, 20 Congressional Medals of Honor for Valor were given to the 7th Cavalry. To this day, this is the most Medals of Honor ever awarded for a single battle. More Medals of Honor were given for the indiscriminate slaughter of women and children than for any battle in World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, or Afghanistan. The Wounded Knee Massacre is considered the end of the Indian Wars. The holy man Black Elk said, "I did not know then how much was ended. And I can see that something else died there in the bloody mud and was buried in the blizzard. A people's dream died there, and it was a beautiful dream." With this event, a new era in Native American history began. Everything can be measured before Wounded Knee and after. 1900, the U.S. Indian population reached its low point, less than 250,000, compared to an estimated 8 million in 1492. 1980, the longest-running court case in U.S. history, the Sioux Nation versus the United States, was ruled upon by the U.S. Supreme Court. The court determined that when the Sioux were resettled onto reservations and 7 million acres of their land were opened up to prospectors and homesteaders, the terms of the Second Fort Laramie Treaty had been violated. As payment for the Black Hills, the court awarded only $106 million to the Sioux Nation. The Sioux refused the money with the rallying cry, "The Black Hills are not for sale." 2010. Statistics about Native population today, more than a century after the massacre at Wounded Knee, reveal the legacy of colonization, forced migration, and treaty violations. Unemployment on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation fluctuates between 85 and 90%. The housing office is unable to build new structures, and existing structures are falling apart. Many are homeless, and those with homes are packed into rotting buildings with up to 5 families. 39% of homes on Pine Ridge have no electricity. More than 90% of the population lives below the federal poverty line. The school dropout rate is up to 70%. Teacher turnover is 8 times higher than the US national average. Frequently, grandparents are raising their grandchildren because parents, due to alcoholism, domestic violence, and general apathy, cannot raise them. These are the bones left after the best meat has been taken. A long time ago, a series of events was set in motion by a people who look like me, by Washichu, eager to take the land and the water and the gold in the hills. As removed as we, the dominant society, may feel from a massacre in 1890 or a series of broken treaties 150 years ago, I still have to ask you the question, how should you feel about the statistics of today? What is the connection between these images of suffering and the history that I just read to you? And how much of this history do you need to own, even?